Very good afternoon to all pious mindfulness meditators. So the first question, um, sitting meditations. Besides noting physical pains, um, body sensation, and thoughts that arise, can we embrace the quality of four Brahma Vihara in our thoughts while noting or acknowledging to bring forth the quality of compassion, rejoice, metta, and equanimity. The practice of Brahma Vihara are the objects of concentrations. Um, while we are practicing mindfulness, the objects are mental. The object of mindfulness meditations are mental and physical phenomena. And the aim of practicing mindfulness meditation and the aim of practicing four Brahma Viharas are totally different. When we practice mindfulness meditation, our aim is to develop wisdoms, supra-mundane wisdoms, in order to uproot mental defilements and attain enlightenment. When we practice samatha bhavana or concentration meditation, for example, choosing perform Brahma Vihara, or either metta, or karuna, or mudita, or upekkha, as a object. The purpose is to develop concentrations. Although it is mentioned in scriptures that, for example, the aim of practicing metta is to overcome dosa. Dosa means hatred, anger, ill will, aversions. But we could not uproot dosa completely by merely practicing metta. We need to develop wisdoms, supra-mundane wisdoms based on the metta concentrations. So we can't practice both at the same time, but we can practice, for example, four Brahma Vihara as a support to the practice of mindfulness meditation or vipassana meditation. So, if we look at the angle of self realization, we have to develop wisdoms and realize by ourselves the true natures of mental and physical phenomena, and attain and uproots the mental defilements and attain enlightenment. When you are practicing mindfulness, you are in fact having metta for yourself, isn't it? It's because you love yourself. That's why you make an effort to purify your mind. Purify your mind from all kinds of defilements. You have to realize the defilements is a cause of evil actions, and that evil actions will give rise to painful results, suffering, and so on. So when you're practicing mindfulness meditation, you're in fact having metta for yourself. You're having karuna. You have compassion for yourself. You did not have to ask compassion from others. You are in fact having compassion for yourself. Then when you're able to do it well, there's a feeling of joy, there's mudita. And when you're able to attain path knowledge and uproot the defilements, then there's equanimity. So you do not have to purposely bringing the practice of 4 Brahma Vihara during the practice of mindfulness meditation. So you have to realize that when you practice mindfulness meditation, vipassana meditation, you're in fact having metta, karuna, mudita, and eventually upekkha for yourself. You do not have to ask anyone to radiate metta to you anymore. But sometimes we do practice Brahma Vihara or Buddhanussati and so on as a support to the practice of mindfulness meditation or vipassana meditation. This is taught by the Buddha in one of the sutta that can be found in the Satipatthana Samyutta. So I shall only talk about the gist of this sutta. The Buddha said to Ananda, or whatever Ananda, when a bhikkhu, or we can say the vipassana meditators or mindfulness meditators, dwells contemplating the body and the body, dwells contemplating feelings in feelings, or dwells contemplating mind in mind, dwells contemplating phenomena in phenomena. So in other words, the Buddha said, when one is practicing 4 foundations of mindfulness, then arises in him or her, based on the body, either a fever in the body, or sluggishness of mind, or the mind is distracted outwardly. Then one may direct the mind towards some inspiring sign. So what's the meaning of fever in the body? A fever in the body means a fever of defilements arising, having the body as the basis. So it could be various kind of defilements arising due to body discomfort or physical pain. Or when one is experiencing sluggishness of mind, or the mind is distracted outwardly, then one should direct his mind or her mind towards some inspiring sign. Or inspiring sign means object of meditation that can inspire you, give rise you to confidence or courage to continue the practice. So the inspiring sign, for example, could be Buddhanussati, to arouse your own confidence, to overcome the hindrance of doubt. Or the practice of metta, in order to overcome the hindrance of ill will, restlessness, and so on. So the Buddha says, one directs the mind towards some inspiring sign. Then greatness, the feeling of greatness is arising. So when this feeling of greatness, that feeling of greatness gives rise to rapture. The mind is uplifted by the raptures, the body becomes tranquil. So when there's this experience tranquility in the body and experiences happiness, then the mind there's happiness in the mind, that mind becomes concentrated. Then one reflects that the purpose for the sake of directing my mind has been achieved. let me withdraw it now. It means he stop the practice of directing the mind to the inspiring sign, and goes back to the practice of four foundation of mindfulness again. So we do not practice concentration and mindfulness almost at the same moment. It's because this meditation, concentration meditation, leads to one direction. That means one could attain deep concentration, calmness of mind, peacefulness of mind, but does not enable one to attain enlightenment. One may experience a lot of bliss, but that bliss still belongs to mundane happiness, mundane bliss. But the practice of mindfulness meditation, vipassana meditation, leads to the other directions beyond the mundane. So which one you prefer? So we need not have to bring in these four Brahmavihara in our thoughts. If you wish to develop four Brahmavihara, then you can practice when you in other sessions of meditations. Then the second question asked by the same yogis. I was amazed with the dissolutions of pains, unpleasant thoughts that give rise to bliss and joy. Are the pains or worrisome reduced or eliminated as the mind perceives them disappear due to acknowledgments or acceptance has somehow subdued them to be tolerable? Every phenomenon, either a mental phenomenon or bodily phenomenon or body sensation, subject to arising and passing away. Even you do not observe it, it will disappear eventually. But it's because you observe it, be mindful of it as it really occurs. Then you gain wisdoms or insight knowledge. So it's not because you acknowledge the phenomenon such as pain, then the pain will disappear. Whatever arising is also subject to passing away. So it's nothing is permanent. But because you are mindful of it, you do not react to it. You do your duty as a mindfulness meditators in order to mindful of it as it really occurs. Then you gain insight, knowledge, or wisdoms. If your mindfulness and concentration are strong enough, you even can attain path knowledge at that moment. So every object is arising and passing away by itself. Then the next question. During sitting meditation, sometimes when my mindfulness is sharp, I can clearly observe my abdominal rising and falling. Even it's very minor. Moreover, I feel the rising and falling movements is bigger than the real movements, even bigger than my abdomen. My question, is it an illusion, and what should I do? Meditators have to perceive or experience the movements of rising, falling as they really occur. if the mindfulness is clear, then they come to perceive that movements as a physical process. So this movements is not a mental process. But if the meditators doubt his own experience or her own experience, then she could mindful and note down and put forth effort to mindful and note whatever being perceived at that moment. If the mindfulness getting clearer, then meditators may come to realize the true process of that phenomenon. In other words, meditators come to realize the movements as a physical process or due to illusions. In words, we discover the experience by ourselves through constant mindfulness and noting. You do not make an effort to analyze, the movement getting bigger, larger, is due to my illusion or is it real? So we always encourage meditators to be mindful and note. And the mindfulness has the ability to discover the actual experience. So you need to have confidence. It's not possible that meditators do not know the movements is real or due to the imaginations or illusion. So you need to mindful repeatedly. You have doubt about your experience, doubt, and so on. Sometimes if meditators could not overcome the doubt or still thinking that it's due to his illusion, then one may places the hand above the abdomens to feel the movements. Then you may feel it as a physical movement. But usually we do not encourage meditator to do that, because by placing your abdomen, by placing your palm above the abdomens, then you may lose the chance to realize better experience and so on. So we do not purposely place the palm above the abdomens. We try to mindful and note it continuously. Whatever being perceived by the mind, we try to mindful and note it. When the mindfulness is getting clearer, when there's clarity of mindfulness, you come to realize your actual experience. Then the next question, how long should we do the sitting meditation? Is it the longer the better? Or some say at least 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. Actually, the duration of sitting is depending on the quality of mindfulness, the quality of the practice. It doesn't mean that you sit long, you gain more experience. It depends on your quality of mindfulness, the quality of experience. If meditators could sit well, the mindfulness should be getting stronger and stronger when they are able to sit longer and longer. But in the practice of mindfulness meditation, we may not have to sit for 4 or 5 hours and so on. Some teachers say that it's enough to sit for 2 hours. Then one may stand up and proceed to practice walking meditation or mindfulness of daily activities. Unless meditators are realizing some very unusual experience, and the mindfulness is extremely strong. Then they may just sit on. They do not have to stop at the 2 hours sitting and so on. Mindfulness meditators should practice mindfulness well in all the 4 postures. It's not only you could practice well in sitting meditation, but could not practice much mindfulness in walking or standing. But of course, in the retreats, we do not encourage to practice lying meditation. So you may practice lying meditation at home because it's very difficult to practice lying meditation. Meditators might overpower by sleepiness easily. So we do not practice lying meditation in the retreats unless one's not well, or when you are practicing at home. Before you get into sleep, you may continue the practice of mindfulness until you fall into sleep. Can we use breathing as a focus other than sitting, touching, and rising, falling? If meditators wish to practice vipassana meditation preceded by samatha meditations, then they may choose one object samatha. They concentrate on that object samatha. For example, the in-breath and out-breath for a period of time, let's say about 15 to 20 minutes. When they experience some calmness, then they may switch over to the practice of vipassana. But if meditators wish to practice vipassana, we do not take the in-breath and out-breath as an object. But meditators may take the touching of the wind with the nostrils as an object of vipassana. Touching is also an object of vipassana meditation or mindfulness meditation. Touching in this practice, or in the teaching of Abhidhamma, the object or contact is called potaba. The meaning of potaba is quite similar to passa, contact. So only by being mindful of the contact of the elements with the body. Elements mean here the internal elements, not the external elements. When these internal elements that contact your body, then you can experience directly the true natures of these elements. But in accordance with teaching Abhidhamma, as well as the commentaries, say that the object of potaba is only consists of 3 kinds. So what are these 3 kinds of potaba? Do you know? Potaba means the elements that come into contact with your body. Actually, there are only we can realize 3 kinds of potaba. One is the Patavi Dhatu, earth element. The other is Tejo Dhatu. Tejo means fire elements, but sometimes explained as heat and motion or movements, Vata Dhatu. And Vata Dhatu also, the characteristic of Vata Dhatu also includes the nature of support, vibrations. So we have to experience these elements through contact. We cannot gain any inside knowledge by seeing with our physical eyes. For example, a piece of rock, then you might think this is a earth element. It's not possible to realize the true nature of earth element by seeing or watching the rock and saying that we are seeing earth element. We cannot see the wind elements. When you see the leaf of trees is moving, then you may say you are seeing wind element. But that's not seeing wind elements in terms of vipassana meditation. When we say wind elements, means the nature of wind elements, such as movements or nature support or heat, or when the intensity of heat is getting weaker, you may feel cooling, cold, and so on. So we cannot gain inside knowledge by watching the in-breath or out-breath, or taking note the cold wind, cool wind, and so on. But we can only gain this inside knowledge of wisdoms when there's this touching, or what I call potapa, when the elements touching the body. And the elements here are the internal elements. So meditators have to realize that we can only realize these three material elements during the practice. We can only infer that there's water elements in every physical phenomena based on inference. Then the next question. During sitting meditation, if the rising and falling of the abdomen is hard to note, can the object be the rising, falling of the chest? If the movements of the chest is quite clear, meditators also be mindful of the movements of the chest. As long as the movements is a natural process, but they have to be careful that when they are mindful of the movements of the chest, they should not pay attention to the heartbeat. Our whole body consists of 4 primary material elements. So we can realize movements not only in the abdomen. The movements in the abdomen is known as wind element in the belly, or in the scriptures. But there are other elements as well. There are 6 kinds of wind elements, such as upward movements, downward movements, movements along the limbs. For example, sometimes meditators feel some sort of movements in the arms or the legs and so on. Then there's wind element inside the intestine. And the last one is the breath, the wind or the air that you breathe in and breathe out. So sometimes meditators could feel some clear movements in the chest. If they can mindful of it well, then they may take it as an object. But they should not pay attention to the heartbeat. It's because heartbeat is not a suitable object in the practice of mindfulness. But meditators feel the movements of chest is quite subtle, not very clear. Then it's better to take sitting postures and touching points as an alternative. These two objects, sitting postures and the touching point or the context, are quite clear as well. Then the next question, during sitting meditation, I automatically start with watching the breathing in and out. For Vipassana, can I watch the intake of cold air and breathing out of hot air instead of touching point on the nostrils? So as explained just now, when you watching the breathing in and out, you are developing samatha. The word samatha means calmness or peacefulness, tranquility of mind. But you take note of the inhale or intake of cold air and breathing out of hot air is still not the reality of what called wind element or fire element. We must mindful of this coldness or hotness or movements that are arising in our body or internal. So we do not take note of the cold wind, hot wind. This can be perceived by everyone, even those who are not meditating, isn't it? You are not meditating. Sometimes you feel the cold air touching your body, or warm air, or the wind is warm touching your body. Even those who are not meditating can perceive it. But when meditators perceive or realize the true nature of the elements, at that time they overcome the view of self, the wrong view of self. There's only movements, and there's only a movements, and there's process mindfulness. There's a phenomenon of hot, and there's a process of mindfulness, and so on. So this hot and cold, hardness, softness, and so on, known as physical phenomena or rupa. But very often we might take it as a feeling. Very often we might say that the feeling is very hot, the feeling is very warm, and so on, or cold. But hot and cold is not feeling. Sometimes meditators mistaken as a feeling. But in the practice of four foundation mindfulness, hot, cold, hardness, softness, physical phenomena. And physical phenomena, all kinds of physical phenomena are found in the first foundation of mindfulness of body phenomena, or Kayanupassana Satipatthana. But when we talk about feeling, in brief, there are three kinds of feeling: pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. So, for example, when meditators mindful, hot, assuming that they note hot, and that phenomenon of hot is getting stronger, then meditators may experience unpleasant. That phenomenon hot give rise to the feeling of unpleasant. It means there's an unpleasant feeling arise. Then they should note unpleasant. So then he's practicing the second foundation. Or sometimes when you mindful of phenomenal hot in your body, hot, then there's a feeling, there's a cool wind blowing. You feel very pleasant, and you know presence. Then you're practicing the second foundation. Then sometimes meditators mindful of unpleasant feeling because of the strong phenomenon of hot. Assuming that there's a aversion arising, strong feeling towards this phenomenon of hot. Then they note aversion. Then they come to practice of the third foundation, Cittanupassana, Satipatthana, and so on. So we have to realize that we can only gain insight knowledge by watching in the internal elements, not the external elements. Then the next question. When a phenomenon arises during meditation, such as pain, should we note, observe the rising and passing, or investigate the nature of pain? If we just note and observe, how can we know pain is moment to moment of rising and passing? So it's not possible to realize moment to moment of rising and passing way of the pain or any phenomena unless meditators have attained momentary concentration. And to attain momentary concentration, meditators must be able to develop moment to moment mindfulness, and each moment of mindfulness is attentive, precise, and energetic. So in order to develop moment to moment attentive, precise, and energetic mindfulness, meditators have to put forth enough effort. So as long as meditators have not yet attained momentary concentration, they can't realize the true nature of pain or the true nature of any mental and physical phenomena. So meditators need not have to investigate. They have to put forth effort to strengthen the mindfulness, so that the mindfulness becomes more and more constant and continuous. So during the practice of mindfulness meditation, we do not analyze the phenomena, nor analyze the experience. We do not conceptualize any experience. We do not apply any preconceptions or preconceived ideas into the practice. You might heard about these the factors of the enlightenment. There are 7 factors of enlightenment, and one of the 7 factors of enlightenment is known as investigation of Dharma. But investigation of Dharma does not mean you purposely analyze or investigate into the true natures of the phenomena. Investigation of Dharma is also an insight knowledge. Insight knowledge, discerning mentality and physicality through personal experience or direct experience. So, as we always emphasize, meditators have to realize the true nature of pain and all the mental physical phenomena through personal experience, direct experience. So when they when they are able to develop moment-to-moment mindfulness and attain momentary concentration, then they come to experience by themselves the moment-to-moment arising and passing away of the pain or any object that one was mindful at that time. We can know the experience through the practice. Just like when you eat the food, you know the taste. It's not possible you eat the food, you do not know the taste. Then another question. What's the reason to do walking meditation first before sitting meditation? There are 5 benefits of practicing walking meditations. And one of the benefits is quite helpful to the practice of mindfulness meditation. The first benefit is one can endure traveling by foot. As you know, during the Buddha's time, they have to walk to any place, anywhere by foot. So if one likes to practice walking, one can endure walking a long distance by foot. The second benefit, one becomes free from disease or free from sickness. So walking meditation is also a form of physical exercise. But in the teaching of Buddha, it's not only a form of physical exercise. It can also lead one to attain attainment of insight knowledge, realization of insight knowledge, or even attainment of arahat, enlightenments. In accordance with the commentaries, the last disciple of the Buddha, Venerable Subhadda, attained enlightenments during walking meditation. Then the next benefit, whatever one has eaten, savor, becomes well digested. And the fourth benefit, the concentration gained during walking meditation lasts a long time. So if you are able to carry forward your mindfulness and concentration into your sitting meditation, then you have a good foundation to begin in your sitting meditation. So that's why we always advise meditators to walk slowly, mindfully to the place of sitting, sit down slowly with mindfulness, and so on. Then the fifth benefit, one can endure exertions, or in other words, one is endowed with this quality of perseverance. Exertions means one is able to put forth great effort, mental effort, as well as physical effort into the practice. So it's because of this, because of walking meditation. If a mindfulness meditators like to practice walking, then one is developing this quality of exertions or perseverance. One is not easily to keep up despite facing or encountering difficulties or hindrances in the practice. So perseverance means one is endowed with this quality of striving or to achieve one's aim in meditation despite encountering a lot of difficulties or hindrances in the practice. As you know, many people may like to sit idly when they have free time. Some people do not like to be active. When they have free times, they sit down, not doing anything, enjoying idleness or laziness. But one who likes to practice walking will never like to enjoy laziness or idleness, especially laziness and idleness of the mind. The mind is lazy to work. Similarly, sometimes meditators are lazy, reluctant to mindful and note. They enjoy. They say they are enjoying calmness before the mind. The mind is not working. But this is actually known as idleness of the mind. But one who likes to practice walking will put forth a great deal of effort to mindful and note. The mind will not be staying idle. So sometimes we need to practice walking as a way to keep the effort and concentration in balance. By right, we should overcome imbalance of faculties by mindfulness. So some of you who have knowledge might know that meditators have to keep the 5 mental faculties in balance. That means the faculties of confidence or faith, saddha. These faculties should be kept in balance with wisdom or panya. The faculty of effort should be kept in balance with faculty of concentration. But mindfulness usually is lacking mindfulness. So we did not have to keep in balance with any faculties. We need stronger and stronger mindfulness. So it's because of mindfulness, meditators are able to keep these twin faculties in balance. But sometimes they could not keep the faculties of effort and concentration balance. For example, the mind becoming passive, inactive. So by right, meditators should mindful and note the inactive mind. But sometimes they could not overcome it. Then they change of postures. As soon as the change of postures, then they overcome the inactive mind or passiveness of the mind. So walking is very helpful to the practice of sitting meditation. And by practicing walking meditation, you may gain insight knowledge. Sometimes you gain more insight knowledge or experiences than the sitting meditation. One of the foundation or experience is meditators are able to realize the intention before every process movements and the intention of wanting to do something. So sometimes we emphasize the importance of walking meditation as well as mindfulness of daily activities. Sometimes we emphasize that mindfulness of daily activities is more important than the practice of walking meditation and sitting meditation. It's because you do spend quite many hours doing other things, eating your breakfast, lunch, or walking from place to place, taking shower and so on. That's during retreats. You need to be mindful of these activities. Sometimes you have to be mindful of some of these daily activities in details. Sometimes you practice the mindfulness. So when meditators could practice mindfulness of daily activities well, they could also realize the true nature of the movements. There are many processes of movements: lifting, pushing, sitting down, stretching up your arms, bending of the arms, and so on. And when you could realize the movements well, you also could realize the intention. And so you realize the intention, then there's a process movements. Sometimes preceded by intention, there's another intention. Sometimes we know it as one thing. For example, at the end of sitting meditation, there's a thought arising, wanting to go back to the sitting. So there's the intending mind. Meditator know is one thing, then it start to move. If the mindfulness is very strong and sharp, the meditators will realize there's intention, there's lifting movements, there's intention, there's pushing movements, there's intention, there's dropping movements, and so on. So meditators come to realize the cause and effect clearly. So this is one of the foundation of the progress. And then some meditators, especially beginners, might not be able to sit long. For example, a minimum of 1 hour every session of sitting. Then we may allow them to sit for half an hour, 40 minutes. Then they may walk longer than 1 hour, such as 1 hour 50 minutes, or even 1.5 hours. So it's important to practice walking meditation before sitting meditation. In fact, a good practice is every sitting meditation preceded by walking meditation. Then for walking meditation, when focusing on the 5 processes of steps, is it normal that noting of the mind in its thinking process when labeling the steps? Normally this happens when doing the walking very slowly. When meditators make any mental labeling, this labeling is not really a thinking process. It's due to the perception. When the perception is clear, the mind could label the object instantly. So meditators should not pay attention or be mindful of the labeling. If they are mindful of the labelings, then they are unmindful of the object at that moment. So we do not mindful of the labeling. Labeling is merely words. We can't realize the true natures or ultimalities by observing that labeling or the words. But we have emphasized that labeling or noting is a useful tool to help meditators to develop more and more attentive, precise, and energetic mindfulness. And usually, meditators should make a brief labeling. They should not drag the words. Some methods of meditation, they drag the words. They synchronize the labeling with the movements. For example, when they focus their mindfulness at the heel, then they begin to lift and label lifting. So that labeling is synchronized with the movements. In that way, they cannot realize the process of movements well. They cannot pay full attention to that movements. It's because they drag the words lifting and so on. So when meditators could walk very slowly, they also need to make a brief labeling for the lifting or pushing. But sometimes meditators are able to walk slowly. The movement is slow and natural. In other words, they do not force themselves to slow down. They do not put much intentional effort to slow down the movements. They could walk very slow naturally. But because the movement is so slow, they make one mental labeling, for example, pushing. Then the movement is still in progress. And the mindfulness could not stay well with the slow movements. Then sometimes we advise meditators to note that process movements more than once. The lifting, pushing. So by making one or two additional noting or labeling, that additional noting or labeling helps the meditators to keep the mindfulness with that slow process of pushing and so on. So when you do joint or longer retreats, when you could slow down quite naturally, sometimes the teachers may instruct you to note certain process movements more than once. When you could mindful and note certain processor movements more than once, then you come to realize that process of movements is not a single process. You may begin to realize, for example, lifting process is not a single process. It consists of 2-3 processes of lifting. When the mindfulness and noting getting stronger, you may see more and more processes of lifting movements in that lifting movements itself. So meditators should make use of the labeling wisely, so that the labeling does not become distractions or hindrance to the mindfulness. Then the next question. Thank you for your guidance and teachings during these retreats. It's in fact very fruitful. May I request for Bante's advice on the first question. Bante mentioned a few times on practice indifference. May I ask how to practice it, the ways to practice it? What we meant by indifference means during the practice of mindfulness meditation, meditators need not have to take interest of the sense object. For example, the sound or noise in the environments. You might have heard very sound or noise in this in the environments. You do not have to take interest, pay attention to it. This meaning of indifference during the practice of mindfulness. Then the next question: whenever I see image or beings during meditation, I tend to send metta. Is it appropriate? So we do not send metta at that time. We should continue with the practice of mindfulness. For example, seeing, and so on. We do not stop the mindfulness and practice metta at that time. If you wish to practice metta to that image, then you may do it at the end of sitting meditation or at the beginning of sitting meditation. Only when you go mindful and not continuously, then your mindfulness will become sharper, stronger. So we do not, we seldom like stop practice metta while seeing image of a person and so on, or image of being during meditation. Okay. Then for beginners, what are the prerequisites or requirements or guidelines for them to achieve in order to participate in Vipassana retreats, so that it's much easier for them during the retreats. So beginners have to learn this practice of Vipassana meditation from teachers or experienced meditators, or joining a course on the practice of Vipassana meditation. Then they should put some effort to practice at least 1 hour a day. These are minimum requirements. Practicing 1 hour a day, where you may practice half an hour walking meditation, then followed by half an hour sitting meditations. If you could sit well, you may practice 20 minutes, about 20 minutes walking, and practice about nearly 40 minutes of sitting meditation. So even experienced meditators also need to practice daily. If they stop the practice totally, if they go back to the retreats in a few months' time, then they may have to start from the beginning again. So other requirements such as observance of morality is important. As a lay practitioners, you need to purify your moral conducts by training yourself to observe the 5 moral precepts. As you know, sila, morality, is a foundation of mental training. Then, more important than this observance morality is overcoming attachment to sensual desires or desire for sensual objects. This is taught in one of the sutta found in the Anguttara Nikaya, where the Buddha mentioned about step by steps in terms of mental training. The first step is to overcome attachment to sensual pleasures or desire for sensual objects. I think you have the knowledge that if any person likes to indulge in enjoyment, all kinds of enjoyments of sensual pleasures or sensual objects, most likely that person is not interested in spiritual training, because the teaching of the Buddha as well as the spiritual training, the Buddha say, is going against the current of sensual pleasures. So that's why in this sutta, overcoming the attachment or strong longing for sensual pleasure, desire for sensual objects is the first step to make progress. And this attachment to sensual pleasure, strong longing for sensual objects, can also become a cause of violations of morality. So that's why it's important. If you take interest in mental training, you have to make, you aspire to make progress. Then the first step is to overcome attachment. Then the second step is only observance morality. The third step is only come to concentration. Then the fourth is the foundation of insight knowledge. Then the next one is a stronger insight knowledge. Some insight knowledge are known as weak insight knowledge. Only you come to certain stage of insight knowledge, then it's known as strong insight knowledge, where it may arouse your effort, your tanda, to strive even harder, and so on. So then, beside this daily practice, overcoming the attachment to sensual pleasures, strong desire for sensual object, purification of morality, then meditators train themselves to practice at least general mindfulness in your daily life. As you know, the environment at home is different from the retreat center or in the meditation center. So you do not have to slow down, but you learn to practice the mindfulness. That means you become aware that you are sweeping, or you are cleaning, and so on. You do not have to make any mental labeling. You walk at a normal pace, be mindful that you are walking. So in other words, you may practice general mindfulness outside the retreats, as long as you do not have to do any mental work. Sometimes you have to do some mental work. For example, the mind is thinking or finding a solution to solve certain problems in your work, and so on. But when you do not have to do any mental work, then you may practice the mindfulness. If you cannot practice the mindfulness, then do not force yourself too much. But you should put effort to mindful of any mental defilements or impurities of mind or emotional mental states that are arising in your daily life. For example, at home, sometimes the mind is thinking of an incident that happened in the office. Then there's a feeling of anger arising. Then you should be mindful of that anger. If you are able to make mental noting at that time, you might make mental noting, anger. Be mindful of that mental state of anger until it has disappeared by itself. So if you do have the habit to mindful of mental defilements or impurities of the mind or emotional mental states that are arising in your daily life, outside the retreats, you may able to sustain purity of mind to a certain extent. Then it gives you a better condition to meditate, to practice well in the next retreats. It is because you have developed the habit of mindful of mind. You do not let your mind dwell on any unwholesome thoughts or negative thoughts, and so on. So it's important to mindful of the mind, even though you are not in the retreats. Then the next question: how could I get a friend? How could I get a friend recovering from depressions to begin vipassana meditation practice? I have already got him regularly, visits psychiatrists with meditation, but he insists not ready for meditations. Or yeah, he's so one needs to be patient, to encourage such person, such patient to meditate. But you need to find out whether or not he or she is ready to meditate. Sometimes if the doctors or the psychiatrists give the encouragements, then they may begin to learn meditation. I have met quite a number of meditators. They come to learn meditation because they are encouraged by their doctors. Because maybe they have more trust in their doctors. Sometimes we cannot become their good friends or Kalyanamita. So you know the meaning of Kalyanamita. Good friends or good friends or wise friends who gives you encouragements to develop the Noble Eightfold Path by the practice of Vipassana meditation. But sometimes they themselves may not have confidence or may have not confidence in you. So you need to be patient. You may have to practice more loving kindness towards them, or you may encourage them to begin with other meritorious deeds, such as volunteering themselves or to give service, for example, to the temples, old folks' home, and so on, or by encouraging them to learn the teaching of Buddha through chanting, or for example, chanting Mangala Sutta, and so on. If they are not ready to practice Vipassana meditation, then should encourage them to practice metta, having to practice metta in order to develop more and more loving kindness for himself, herself, as well as to others. Please tell us one Buddha's story to motivate us to practice Vipassana every day. So this could be an interesting question to you. But I'm not good at telling stories. You should ask this question to the Sunday Dhamma school teachers here. But if you are the Sunday Dhamma school teachers, then you should read more or ask your principals. In the Dhammapadas, there are two stories. It's about the two monks. Of course, at two different Dhammapada verses. One is by the name of Thera Attadatta. The one is by the name of Thera Tissa. Actually, the story is about the same. When the Buddha declared that in 4 months' time, that Tathagata would realize Parinibbana. So the disciple Buddha, the monks and so on, they are not enlightened, or they are not Putujana. So they were at a loss what to do. So they stay close to the Buddha. But this Thera Tissa in one of the Dhammapada stories, and this Attadatta in another Dhammapada story, they make a firm resolutions to attain enlightenment, the highest stage of enlightenment, arahantship, during the lifetime of Buddha. So they were striving diligently in their meditation practice. They did not stay close with the Buddha. So other disciples who are rulings, Putujana, could not understand these two monks. So they took them to see the Buddha and say that say the Buddha, this bhikkhu does not seem to love and respect Tathagata as we do. He only keep to himself. Then the Buddha asked them, then they explained that they were striving diligently to attain arahantship before the Buddha realized paridimada. And that was the only reason they did not come to attend to the Buddha. Then the Buddha said to other bhikkhus who are not enlightened, or other disciples who are not enlightened, known as Putujana. The Buddha said, those who love and respect me very much should be like Attadatta. Attadatta is the name of the bhikkhu or tisa. You are not paying me homage by just offering flowers, incense, and by coming to see me. You pay me homage only by practicing the Dharma I have taught you. So, what's this Dharma that the Buddha referred to? The Buddha said, you pay me homage, or the highest homage, only by practicing the Dharma I have taught you. So what is this Dharma that the Buddha had taught you? Actually, it's a Lokuttara Dharma. Lokuttara Dharma consists of 4 stages of path knowledge, 4 stages of fruition knowledge, and enlightenments. So we pay the highest homage, respect to the Buddha by practicing the Dharma that could lead us to realize or the attainment of the 9 stages of Lokuttara Dharma. So this is how we should show our highest respect or our homage to the Buddha. So some of you might have joined certain retreats where at the end of the day or in the morning chanting, they chant Imaya Dhammanu Dhammapatipatiya or Buddham Pujemi, Dhammam Pujemi, Sangham Pujemi. So do you understand the meaning? Imaya Dhammanu Dhammapatipatiya. Dhammanu here means the 9 stages of Lokuttara Dhamma. Patipati means the practice or the Dhamma that you could lead you to attainment of 9 stages of Lokuttara Dhamma. By this practice, I pay my homage or respect to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So similarly, if you wish to pay homage to the Buddha, then you should put forth effort to practice vipassana or mindfulness every day. Then the next question, how to keep up a good learning method after the retreats. So I believe the question is about the practice of mindfulness meditation. So you need to make an aspirations and have chanda to achieve it. As I mentioned, chanda means desire to achieve something. You do not have the chanda to do it, then it's not possible to achieve or to realize anything. So you have to make aspiration. You have to be self-disciplined. In other words, you have to make sure that you do meditate. Assuming that you plan to practice mindfulness meditation, vipassana meditation, one hour a day. So you should plan for the time and do it every day. Unless some worldly matters are very important to attend to it. So you must make the aspiration. So the word aspiration, adhitthana, is one of the 10 paramis. You make aditana, for example, idame punyam nibbana sapaja hotu. You may make these aspirations whenever you whenever you practice meditation, when you do the chanting at the end of the day, or when you're offering dana in the temples, sometimes you make these aspirations. But if the aspirations, yet there's no actions, then there's no aspirations. Aspiration means you want to something happening in reality. It will happen or materialize eventually. That's called aspirations. So when you have made the aspirations, then you must begin to do some planning and translate your aspirations into actions. So this is known as aspiration. Then the next question. What is the best way for us householders to cultivate and consistently maintain a mindfulness practice in our daily life? I think you have the answer from the various questions that have answered these questions. So the best way is you must be disciplined. You must make aspirations, translate your aspirations into actions. You have to overcome attachments or strong longing for sensual pleasures or strong desire for sensual objects. You have to put forth effort to purify your morality by observing the 5 moral precepts. So this is important. Of course, if you have you will associate with good friends, then you may encourage each others to keep to sustain the practice. So this the answer to all these 14 these questions asked by about 14 yogis.
Do 3 times to Bante.